The very best products we've got are here in China. In fact, China's probably leading the development. When was the last time we built a coal-fired power station in the UK? 1986. There's one getting built every month here in China. This means that they're building a huge industrial machine that can design and manufacture and install power stations. Even if you are not coming to China specifically for the market here, you've got to be careful that your whole industry isn't moving to China seriously. You've got a tremendous polarisation beginning to take place in many, many industry sectors. First of all, because China's becoming the biggest market in the world. Secondly, because you've got these Chinese main contractors going overseas. And thirdly, because you've got foreign main contractors coming here to China to buy.
This is China. Everything is like 4 times quicker.
In the UK, we look at a planning process of maybe a year on a project. In China, that year certainly gets cut down to a matter of weeks.
When foreign designers come to China, is the speed of work is quite a cultural shock.
And that has been one of the biggest battles for the foreign staff, is actually learning to actually deal with projects in that sort of time frame and to actually be able to turn the work around quick enough.
When you do a joint venture, technology transfer has a very specific meaning, because particularly if you have obtained part of your equity in the joint venture in exchange for the technology, then you've really got to demonstrate that you're actually making the transfer of something physical. So you've got to list all sorts of drawings and design manuals, and then you've got to officially bring all that stuff to China. That's the kind of legal or official side of it. But more important is transferring the know-how, making sure that you train people properly, and that can be a difficult process. We used to always talk about know-how and know why. It's one thing to know how to do something, it's another thing to know why you've got to do it. That requires a deeper level of scientific and engineering training. So you've got to go step by step through the different levels. We had some disasters with quality in the early days in the factory in Shanghai. We were getting gearboxes manufactured, and even our own people inside the factory, they knew exactly what they were supposed to do in terms of checking the quality. But we had a target for the delivery as well. And it seemed like it became a choice between quality or delivery. You can have one or the other. Trying to make them understand that it's not quality or delivery. It's got to be both. You've got to work at your systems. There's some of it's about getting people to think the right way, but some of it is about basic quality systems and standards and working with the suppliers. So you just got to go all the way back down the supply chain and hammer it out, start again.
Health and safety in a traditional Chinese factory may be somewhat different as a starting point to where we see health and safety. That's about investment in, we actually go and send people out either from international companies or from our QA teams to spend time in factories talking about health and safety standards. And we're retailers. This is what we really want to do, but this is why we want to do it. This is where we're trying to go in our strategy in China. Are you with us? If they sign on the dotted line, then it's an ongoing program of development. So this isn't just about finding a vendor with the right price and walking away and saying job done. We're here for the long term, and building people up takes time. China has this history of mobilisation of huge numbers of people, and whilst people are very important in our business, we need to mobilise them in the right directions. And I still don't think China has seen anything close to the impact of real productivity gains out of IT. We want constant, achievable, sustainable improvement in our business and our vendors.
And as we go on, we're building those vendors up and narrowing the number of them down, because we want to put more and more volume through fewer vendors. That helps them grow and it helps us grow. In terms of the other costs of the business, this is a low margin economy, so our retail margins are relatively low compared to world standards. But even though we pay well, so are things like labour costs and other costs in the country. So it's about setting up your economic model which acknowledges low property costs, low margin costs, but low other costs. And if you set it up correctly, then you can make money. If you set it up incorrectly, then you won't make money. And that's what some people do when they come to China.
In China, in the past, we don't have finance, it's accounting. They just record the past, not forecast the future. So this is different for a foreign company, like Clyde, especially like Clyde, it's very autonomous.
We operate exactly the same financial reporting systems in China that we operate with our companies in the rest of the world.
The group, require a lot of reporting. So this is something very new to Chinese, local Chinese.
The laws and regulations for IPR infringement are actually pretty good in China, but the problem is the enforcement, as we all know.
You can go through the whole thing about taking people to court and all that. Well, we haven't done that so far, and I don't want the hassle of getting into legal battles. I prefer just to keep winning the jobs.
China is a very regional society, so you have one region that might be copying another competitor's products, but the local government are benefiting from tax income. So it's not necessarily in the local government's interest to help clamp down any infringement, and that's one of the key problems in the system, and that's going to take a while to address.
And so I have great confidence that over the course of time, China will be a marketplace that increasingly respects intellectual property. Why? Because innovation is one of the key themes of this present government. And to have an innovative environment, you have to be able to encourage people to, develop their own IP.
If you establish a subsidiary here, send good people here and trust them that they will learn how to do this.
Because the Chinese business environment is different and it does require some explanation.
More often than not, headquarters do not understand what is required to be successful here, expect miracles, are angry if those miracles don't happen, and at the same time are too prescriptive in how and don't give enough freedom.
But the most important thing undoubtedly is that they are aligned to, as it were, the mothership. Because when you're dealing with your Chinese partners, whether it's a joint venture partner, whether it's a supplier, whatever, they'll want to know that that person is representative of the business. What they don't want is some fresh-faced recruit who's new to the industry, maybe, new to the business, and new to China, or if they're not new to China, new to that market in China. So, and that's a mistake that many companies frequently make.